You know what? Speaking of machine, it's funny, if you actually study the cosmos, no matter how loosely you study it, what you'll realize is that everything is synchronized, everything is in a sequence, everything is running like clockwork, you know? And one thing that metaphysics has taught me, one thing that, metaphysics such as astrology has really opened my eyes to is the fact that we are not to blame for who we are and what we are, at least not entirely. Where free will comes into play, that can muddy the waters, of course, with such a concept. But how I see it is that you have, like, let's say 50% free will, the other 50% is not your control, because you're literally just a tool of this universe. You've jumped into this machine, which we call the cosmos, and everything within that machine runs in a certain place at a certain time, and it's untouchable. How do you think that, such agencies like NASA and all these other guys can track even debris, comets and all these things? Is because there is a steadiness to this machine. It's predictable. And because of its predictability, you can actually decipher characteristics of all sorts of things. All sorts of things. Anything you can think of, you can actually study it and look at the metaphysics and therefore the physics. But particularly in regards to how we relate as people to other people, I would want to obviously spread it out to everything like animals, but let me just focus on relationships between people for now. We all have to understand that we're not to blame. No, we're not to blame. Partly we are, but we are not. Sometimes you just have to accept that you are the way you are because that's you. You came into this earth when the cosmos was at a certain time, if that makes sense. And because of that, you have an imprint. You have a fingerprint. That's your fingerprint. Your natal chart is your fingerprint. And that's why if you know your birth details, like the date, the time, the location, you can decipher many things from your fingerprint. So that is evidence that we are not entirely to blame for the way we are and the things that occur in our lives. But also the crucial point of it is that it helps you understand other people and the fact that they are what they are because they are, not because they're necessarily being pricks or choosing to be. Although that is partly the case as well, you have to bear in mind, but at least it should give you some leeway. And even that, when I say about, free will, you'll find that because of that fingerprint, i.e. the natal chart, some people can exercise their free will better than others. So it is such a complex thing, metaphysics. But when you appreciate the metaphysics of things, the occult of things, then you appreciate life itself and people. And then you cannot be tricked by your ego, because as Jesus said, people perish for the lack of knowledge. The lack of knowledge is the lack of understanding that your ego can be your worst enemy. It can be your best friend, but it can be your worst enemy. Reason it can be your best friend is because as a person in this 3D realm, in a container that they name the body, you are a person. That is your division from the rest of this universe, right? So you do need an ego in order to exercise your self. And I say self with capitals because you are an entity. But if you allow your ego to consume your whole self, as in you believe your ego and that reality is the entirety of things, then that's when it becomes your enemy. So you need to really find that balance. That's the difficulty. That's the key thing we all have to do. Find the balance of that ego. Not too much to the right, not too much to the left. Remember, I did say that, I think I said before that you have a scale and 0 is completely no ego. So that is God. And then 100 is arrogant, self-obsessed, unknowing, unwitting, just asleep, So you got 0, which is conscious, and 100, which is unconscious. So really, the name of the game, while we are here anyway in 3D, is to get to 50, bang in the middle, find that balance. And of course, if we start veering to 0, why not? But that's what we all have to keep in check. So bear in mind that because of this machine, this great machine that we refer to as the cosmos or the universe, you're going to find that whatever enters at any particular time will be affected by that fingerprint, by that time print. So don't look at people and things with a frustration because you feel somehow you can control it or they can control it, because guess what? They cannot. And until people embrace and accept that, there will be no peace on this earth. So just understand my disposition.